Hey, what's up everybody? This is D with Kickin Bass TV. Today we're going to be talking about one of our favorite finesse setups to throw, and that's going to be the NED rig. We're going to be going into detail about what exactly the NED rig is, showing you some underwater footage of it in action, and when and where is a good time to throw it. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below and stay tuned. Thanks. Alright guys, today we're going to be talking about the NED rig, which is essentially just a weighted jig head intended for hopping worms and crawls across the bottom, but can also be used to fish swim baits and grubs, and is a great finesse fishing method for catching bass. Your two most common style of NED rig hook are going to be the traditional one here, which is essentially just an Aberdeen style hook attached to a weighted jig head with some sort of bait catcher to keep your baits snug against the base of the weight, or your weightless style jig, which is essentially the same thing with just some added weed guards, which is great for areas you may not be familiar with or areas with a little bit heavier cover. We'll start out by throwing some Z-Man TRDs, which are basically a Senko style soft bait but made of a proprietary material called Elastec from Z-Man, and are essentially 10 times stronger than most soft baits on the market, incredibly hard to tear, and also have a different buoyancy level and are intended to stand straight up underwater. If you notice with this California craw color, it's got a lighter and a darker side, and it's always best to hide the hook the best you can from the fish. So obviously I like to put my hook sticking out of the darkest side of my bait whenever possible. So essentially what you're going to do is just mark with your thumb where the end of the bait will stop, and then run it straight through. Snug that worm up onto that bait catcher so that it stays on there nice and tight, and you should be good to go, especially with these Elastec that really do stay a lot longer than your standard worm put on here. Taking a look at the bait underwater, you can see that the combination of the weighted jig head and the buoyancy of the Elastec material ensure that your bait always stays standing up, whether you're slow crawling it, hopping it across the bottom, or even just letting it stand perfectly still, maybe trying to entice a more finicky warm weather bass to bite. Whether you're fishing for pre-spawn bass in the shallow water, sight fishing over beds during the spawn, or targeting deep water bass through their summer pattern and into the fall transition, finesse fishing with a NED rig is a great proven strategy to keep in your arsenal, and something that will help you catch bass pretty much year round, especially in those times where you find maybe you're having trouble getting them to bite anything else. Usually if I find myself in that situation, whether I'm fishing open water or on the ice, what I'll do is I'll downsize my bait, and the Finesse TRD is the perfect bait for that application. Now essentially what the Finesse TRD is just a small version of the Senko stick worm. Most Senkos average 4 to 6 inches in length. The Finesse TRD is 2 3/4 inches. As you can see, a lot smaller profile, but it does still protrude enough underwater to draw the attention of the bass, and is not only great for targeting smallmouth bass who a lot of the times won't commit to a whole Senko, but also for those post-spawn bass that maybe aren't feeding as aggressively or on as big as prey as usual, or some of those bass that maybe you find that are spending a lot of time examining the bait underwater and taking a lot longer to bite than usual, in which case either scenario the Finesse TRD can really shine for you. Especially on days like this where it's 94 degrees out, the sun's dead overhead with zero cloud cover in the sky, and there's almost no structure underwater for the bass to find cover in the heat. A lot of the times your best bet in this scenario is to just slow crawl your finesse baits across the bottom. Sure enough, almost directly out in front of that timber that's partially submerged to your left, we got a 2-pound bass on a day where everyone else had already gone home because it was nearly 100 degrees out and they didn't think they could catch a fish, and all because we switched to the NED rig and downsized our bait. Another great use of the NED rig is smallmouth bass applications, specifically with a curly tail grub like this one here. Rigged exactly like the TRD worm, the only difference here is your retrieval. So when you reel this in, reel it in with a steady swim bait style retrieve, and that's going to keep your bait mid column as opposed to hopping it on the bottom, and this is a great way to catch aggressive smallmouth bass. Sure enough, on the very first cast, as you can see here with the curly tail grub, in less than 3 feet of water, we had a smallmouth bass on the line. That's going to be it for the video today, guys. Hopefully it's helped you gain a better understanding of what the Ned rig is and exactly when, where, and how to fish it. So whether your favorite soft plastic is a worm, a craw, or a swim bait, there's a Ned rig out there for everybody. There's even a new Texas rig style all-in-one Ned rig. So get out and give it a shot. And as always, the best way to support us here is to hit that subscribe button down below, and you can stay up to date with our new content by hitting the bell notification right next to it. Until next time, I'm D with Kickin Bass TV.
Subscribe!